I am extremely delighted to see so many people come. This is my first time in Ropecon ever, first time in Messukeskus ever, so I'm happy to be here, and it's an important topic to me, and I assume also for you. My name is Jari-Pekka Kanniainen. I come from northern Finland, from Oulu, or mid-Finland, and I'm a role-playing game designer, but kind of early career, and also designing board games. But my education is completely elsewhere. Administrative sciences, public administration, so very interesting. We will go a quick introduction of everyone, just a name and a short background, and then let's start by discussing kind of like an introduction to the topic. So please, Kristel, you can start from the panelists.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kristel Nyberg, and I'm a long-time role-playing game designer, and I think this is my 20th Ropecon or something like that. So I've been here before. And my background is before I became a role-playing game designer and author, I have a master's degree in theology. So I've studied New Testament Greek and stuff. So
Thank you. And Matleena?
Hello, I'm Matleena Myntti, and I don't have any kind of professional background related to role-playing games or designing them. I have more experience as a background as a neurodivergent role player and someone who is highly sensitive. Kind of like when I hear something, I experience it kind of louder than everyone, and it has caused me some challenges, and it took me some time to learn that I actually don't need to pretend to be normal all the time. So, and I kind of hope to do my part to help make a role-playing scene something that everybody can enjoy, even if there is some kind of limitations. I actually have a talk tomorrow at 10 a.m. about how players can encourage themselves to ask help from GMs when they need. Thank you.
Thank you. And Visa, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Visa Lampi. I have been an avid role-playing gamer hobbyist since more actively since 2019, even though I have visited Ropecon many times before that, even since the Disabilities days. And I'm in the autism spectrum, diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome specifically, and I really care about this topic because when it comes to media presentation of people in the autism spectrum, I kind of feel that they pretty much too many times seem to lean on these really narrow stereotypes and really kind of worrying generalizations without the proper emphasis on the spectrum side of things, as because even though we in the spectrum share similar features and traits, we are still individuals in our ways how autism affects our lives and how we perceive the world. So I'm really honored to be here in this panel to discuss about my experiences and views on this subject.
Thank you, Visa. So our panel is only 3 members and the moderator, but we will do our best, right? Definitely. And let's start with a short introduction to the topic. And I guess we can all agree that RPGs are a great way to experience other ways of seeing the world or other worlds, completely different worlds. And we can pretend to be someone else. We can pretend to be something like we are ourselves. And at best, they are a safe and exciting environment to practice the whole thing. Elizabeth Kilmer, a clinical psychologist, uses tabletop role-playing games in therapy and has said in a Wired article that you can see examples in folk tales, parables, and other oral traditions that role-playing games can be a powerful tool because they are so interactive and they allow us to be vulnerable through our character while at the same time protecting ourselves. And a Finnish active blogger on the representation of disabilities in pop and media and movies and so on, pop culture, I mean, has written also a series of blogs. I recommend to check it out. Pinja Eskola is her name. Has said that how to diversify representation, that it is easy to diversify with simple measures, but you must have a desire to tell more diverse stories overall, in movies, in role-playing games. And telling more diverse stories is possible by questioning and acknowledging our prejudices. And let's say these are the starting points to look at role-playing games. We will go through a few topics, what is the overall discussion in the RPG community about this topic, then experiences from RPGs and live roleplay, about character creation and role-playing a character, which is also, of course, an important aspect of role-playing games, then about NPCs, and how to make the actual gameplay more fluid, so everyone can join. And we have a microphone also for the audience, so if you want to participate with a short comment or a question, raise your hand, and there's a person on the back who will bring you a microphone, so that you know. Okay. First of all, role-playing games are always made by someone. And designing games is a very exhaustive process. I know I've written one game to a demo version, and many designers do not do it for their work, so it's a passion project mostly. But then expanding RPGs to be more accessible, it takes, of course, even more than time and effort, and the aim would be that the designers themselves and game masters would take that extra effort to make their games accessible. How would we improve the overall understanding of diversity in RPGs? How do we achieve a situation where is it the norm to include, for example, chapters dealing with diversity issues in RPG rulebooks? Go ahead, Kristel.
Yeah, I can start with, I published the role-playing game Tivoli last year, and my partner in crime, artist Ninni Aalto, is on the autism spectrum and has severe ADHD. So they helped me quite a lot in working through the overall text, so that the game itself did not have any specifics on diversity, but the game is about challenges that people put up for themselves. So it's about diversity and about battling through those obstacles you put up for yourself. You believe bad things about yourself. Mm-hmm. And Ninni helped me a lot with getting the text as accessible as possible for anyone reading it. For example, someone who has bad eyesight, she found a font that is distributed by the Braille Institute and used that one for the body text and so on. So I think first you have to try to make the product itself accessible for readers. If you write really complicated, convoluted sentences and use imprecise language, that can be a huge obstacle
Mm-hmm.
for accessibility. So I think we might start there.
Yeah, just even using a wrong kind of font,
Yeah.
it makes it inaccessible for some. Go ahead, Madeleine.
Well, I don't have similar experience in game design itself, but I kind of feel that this phenomenon is larger than just role-playing games. I think that the more we in real life and pop culture make it normal to include diverse people, the more the game designers realize that there is that kind of need, and even things like not making graphs in red and green, that's actually pretty well realized already. But anyway, improving the knowledge, since I don't think that people are being inaccessible for sake of being mean or anything. They just don't know. They haven't realized that there is something to pay attention to. So the more we give even the more we make it normal to know that there is these kind of needs, the more people realize to do that. And I also strongly believe in curb cut effect. That I mean those kind of slides that come from walkway to road and where wheelchairs can go through, and those similar kind of ramps can be also used by shopping carts or trolleys or all kinds of or bicycles. That phenomenon basically means that if you have something that helps someone who let's say actually needs it, with quotes, these kind of things also help other people, not just the one that really needs it. Thanks.
Yes, excellent, thank you. So awareness about these issues, I think we are doing a job here to increase that awareness. So one thing. Do you have something to add, Visa? Go ahead.
Well, what I was thinking about is like this, because as I'm in the Asperger's syndrome autism spectrum, I'm not really that good at always like reading other people's facial expressions or how they feel. And I think in the role-playing context, it might be like imagine like this gaming situation where the characters are like mad at each other or have negative feelings to each other. Sometimes I kind of think that I do have kind of like difficulties to like understand even though I know that other players are playing their characters, I kind of feel like I'm not sure that is this like the way the character feels, or is the player really angry at me because I'm doing something in the game? Because some players like to be like this really immersive in their playstyles, like describing all their character speeches and actions in first person, no off game and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's bad. I tend to do that also by myself, but I would like to also kind of think that if you're like playing with someone who is neurodivergent, I think it's really important to really also describe, to make the difference, what is the feeling that your character feels and what you're feeling as a player, just to make it hit more better. Because we do have because I mean sometimes simple things like sarcasm goes way over my head because I tend to interpret them too literally.
Yes, Kristel.
I actually came to think about what you said, and we have been talking about safety mechanics in role-playing games during the past years quite a lot. So actually including this in the safety mechanic part of a role-playing book, that you need to communicate the difference between the player and the character, that might really help many people. And there are mechanics for check-ins, thumbs up, thumbs down, that you can code into the mechanics, so that let's say Visa and I are playing a game and I'm getting really angry as a character, and then Visa goes, "Oh damn, is she angry at me?" And you might lift your hand and put your thumb down, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, and then I will tone down my playing. So yes, and then Visa lifts his thumb, and this is okay. So maybe using these kinds of safety mechanics encoded into the role-playing games themselves in the rules.
Yeah, like I guess a good role-playing game would have tips how to make a game session accessible, feeling safe, but not taking away the excitement that should be there. To really embrace diversity, I think designers such as myself should include and consult experts and people with disabilities, as well as persons who are in the autism spectrum. I think that's the only the way, unless you as a designer have experience about it yourself. We answered already some ideas about gameplay. This kind of passive and indirect communication strategies that might be expressed as Crystal gave an example, and Visa also, and they can be even. I am quite neurotypical, and I can recognize those situations, and I get uncomfortable in those situations too. So indirect communication is hard for everyone. So being more open about it and having guidelines for it really helps everyone. Do you have any concrete good or bad experiences from like an RPG rule book, or not going to the sessions, but about maybe not the theme or content, but some rules or mechanics or expectations a role-playing game has had that you have participated in? Also from the audience, if you want to participate, go ahead. Yes, the microphone comes.
Is it?
It's on, yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that it's the part of integrating all of these things into the thing as a whole, rather than adding it into the end as an extra, is the thing that is biggest here. And a lot of the things that are problems for people for whom they are more sensitive areas are, as you said, problems for everyone. So a lot of these things are just, we've done this like this for a while, so I guess we're doing it like this. And then, a neurodivergent person like myself comes over and asks why, and they're like, I don't know, that's just how we do it. I was like, I'm not satisfied with that answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, thinking of inclusion more than accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking of those two things as an exchange within themselves. Because whenever, I read a manual and at the end it says accessibility or inclusion, I'm like, okay, I'm extra, so,
Mm-hmm.
but, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, kind of continuing from that, often in many cases it might feel like accessibility or inclusion are presented as a choice that you make or as an afterthought, when really you should be thinking about it from the start and not as optional, but it's just something you do.
Okay. More comments?
I just have the counter question to your point, where I simply say you are not satisfied with it. I say in contrast, if somebody doesn't say we do it because of you, but simply because it's granted, I actually like that more than if somebody says it's because of taking care of you. That's
Mm-hmm.
I have a good example. Mika Metsätähti's Twist and Turn was the best, the most sort of role-playing game that has inbuilt most of the more usual safety mechanics, like X-Kortti, X-Card, or I think it was Lines and Veils, and probably something else as well, mashed into the actual book and straight from the start. and it wasn't, well, there were more afterthought, like you can also use this and that as safety mechanics, but I was really impressed when I was reading it of the fact that the safety mechanics were actually inside, in there, in the text, in every rule, in how you create the character and how you negotiate the genre of the game and all that. So I highly recommend. Twist and Turn is in Finnish. The name just isn't for some reason.
Okay, but that's good that let's share good examples, because that's a great start for many. Madlena.
About one of the earlier comments, treating neurodivergent people as an extra and having an extra section for a game book, I think that it also causes the risk of that if somebody has those kind of issues and aren't quite confident about it, they may shy away from asking help, since they are like, oh, this GM or used to getting too much work if I do this, and it was a huge problem for me personally during my early years. I eventually realized that I can ask the help that I need, but this kind of excluding mentality, it certainly doesn't help. So inclusion everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually noticed during the past years a trend in LARPs that much more often when you sign up for a LARP, there is, at least here in Finland, on the web page also accessibility information. So they bring it out on the web page, and there might be things like a clear text written piece of what to expect at the game. There might be details on sleeping arrangement, because I'm pretty neurotypical, but I have recurring depression and severe anxiety. And anxiety especially manifests as some sort of traits that also might code as non-neurotypical, because I want to know where I'm going. I want to know there is a bed for me to sleep in. I want to know where it is. And then there might be information on if we will be playing indoors or outdoors. If it's outdoors, is there a gravel path, or do you need to navigate forest terrain? And that is increasing, so that information is out there right at the start, and I find that something that's really I welcome that. So and it will also, because we know that accessibility needs for different people might be totally opposite. People might need someone who is blind will need different things than the person who is deaf. So having a list of different kinds of views on how we are making this LARP accessible and what you should know will help not only the person who is blind or the person who has anxiety and is afraid they won't find a bed, or a person who needs that clear text written information of what to expect when they arrive.
Those are some great points, and I want to clarify my earlier point about exclusion, inclusion. I meant it more like that. If you make those rule sets or anything that help neurodivergent people kind of like separating in kind of like this is the default way, this is the alternative way, it may be iffy, and on the other hand, having clear information for people who need that kind of accessibility info, that's a great thing, and if it's clearly somewhere, that's awesome. I yeah, I just wanted to clarify what I meant by my earlier thing. So thanks.
Thank you. So definitely incorporating the ideas completely in a rule book, but I guess as a minimum it's at least mentioned somewhere, because I think the worst thing is that it's not mentioned anywhere. I haven't played any LARP ever, so thank you for the comments. I don't know really how to comment on that myself. We need social rules. We need a session 0 for games, and I think that should be a norm. And maybe the session 0 can be just before the session 1 starts, but it just means it's a separate discussion on how we play, what are the rules, how do we make it safe, what feels comfortable for players and what doesn't. Okay.
Your question.
Oh, okay. There was a...
So, just what you were saying about the LARP accessibility and arriving at site and everything. And I do hope that this is something that could pick from to the RPGs too, as how to make text more accessible for people. Is maybe the ones who are Finnish, you've read Amos Rex, the art museum. They have this awesome autism-friendly instructions on how to come on site. And they are, I talked about it with other autistic people, and they said it's like some of them is like, I'm crying here because I'm so included. I need this more in my life. It's more when it's very like a place where you have to go, because that's kind of scary often many times. But it could be also, I think if people read that kind of instructions, how it's made, it could be just understanding how it's made. Very point on point, very clear. It could be also give a lot to, you know, how to create your actual game and book, the layout, everything. Yeah.
Okay, could you please repeat what was the place?
Amos Rex.
I don't
It's an
know that.
art museum.
Yeah, I know about this because the instructions awesome. Amos Rex, the art museum in central Helsinki, came out, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, with really clear instructions on how you visit an art museum, what will happen when you come, where you buy the tickets, that you can always ask the people who are in museum costume, and also that it was mentioned that these workers have been trained to meet the autistic person or whatever, whoever needs help, so they have had diversity training. And I think this is the first in Finland, but that's I really loved it, and so that's something other museums and places where people will go to might benefit from.
Okay, thank you. I'm not from Helsinki, so I did not recognize, sorry. But please, go ahead.
I think that making every kind of instructions clearer, it could help everyone, not just autistic people. On the other hand, I do understand that non-autistic person may, and some autistic people may not need that kind of step-by-step guide, but its existence is a really great thing. And on the other hand, I think that instead of that as much as possible, it would be great to make all the, let's say, role-playing material clear to understand that, and not like normal person, autistic person all the time. There are situations where there is a need for that, but anyway, clearer text is usually clearer text for, if not many, at least most people.
Okay, thank you. We are going really fast on the time. We would have needed at least 1.5 hours. It's only 15 minutes left. So let's talk about character creation, the important part of any role-playing game. We can agree that any kind of mechanical penalties related to anything that is out of the norm in a game are they cannot be approved. They are not good. How do we make characters? How do we make the character creation so that it's more? You can create more diverse characters, and you can be something else than just a superhero, or just that your character only is known of its superior talents or features. There's a comment in the audience.
To my mind, I just remembered that there's this for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, there's this combat wheelchair supplement that is made by a person with a disability, and they also do consulting for several other systems. So that's, for example, a very good way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And panelists, do you have something from character creation, Lisa?
Well, not to character creation specifically. I would like to widen the quiet question to also how do you play the character? Like, I mean, if we think about like a I'm kind of losing the term, like not neurodivergent, neurotypical. Yes, neurotypical player playing a neurodivergent character. Well, I think it's pretty clear that role-playing neurodivergence as neurotypical doesn't really make you, well, it can help you kind of more understand how neurodivergent can perceive the world, but it's not the same as how neurodivergent can actually perceive, or how neurodiversity affects their lives. I would like to tell this one example from a LARP that I participated in last week. It was this youth camp LARP where I was playing this 16-year-old camp counselor who was diagnosed with hard dyslexia. I, as a player, don't have dyslexia. And when I read the character, it was a pre-written character, reading about how it affected his life, how school was hard for him, and I was like, wait, how am I supposed to play dyslexia? Because my brains aren't capable for that, because I can read well. So what I decided to do, because I wasn't really keen on even trying to kind of in character play dyslexia before the game, I just told all the other players that my character has a hard dyslexia. It really affects his lives. You probably can see that he has difficulties reading. I'm not going to play actively that, but you can definitely point that out and discuss in the game. And it worked really well. So I think the point I'm trying to make here is, if you're playing as a neurodivergent character, as a neurotypical player, you don't have to play the neurodivergent features actively in the game. They can be discussed. They can make some content in the game. You can discuss how it affects their lives, but you don't have to actively try to in character play it. I'm not saying that it's the right and only way. I don't like to make any that kind of clear statements, but it's something to think about. Not everything doesn't have to be mechanically put into the character. It just can be in a point of discussion if there is need for it.
Thank you. And another comment in the audience?
Yeah, if able-bodied, able-minded person starts acting out some kind of disability in a lab, or I think there's quite a high risk of some kind of acting out some kind of harmful stereotypes or something like that. So I think that area should probably be approached with some caution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Go ahead.
This subject is something that I think sometimes I'm kind of intrigued by playing people with disabilities. For example, playing, let's say, a deaf character in World of Magic, and then figure out what are their means of dealing with things, especially so that it uses magic in some kind of interesting way. But on the other hand, I'm not deaf myself, and I haven't dared to start playing these kind of characters. Since I'm not quite sure how I do this respectfully. So if anybody has ideas, I'd be very interested in listening to this.
Mm-hmm. So some kind of examples of a positive way to play certain type of disabilities or different roles that might be a good thing to add it in games. Go ahead.
Yeah. My friend Rika, who is blind, told me about a wonderful experience she had at LARP. They were at the Suomenlinna Sea Fortress that has dark tunnels. And the GMs had put in a thread she could follow, and there were things she could feel. And she was the one guiding a group through those tunnels, and she said she felt so liberated by her being blind and being quite used to having difficulties at LARP in being active, suddenly having this superpower. So also I think, and this had been consulted with the GMs, I have also seen her play a medium at a LARP so that she had a braille display in her lap under the table, and the GMs fed her things the medium saw. And, you know, I think those are really cool examples of things you can do so that you don't write the character to be helpless because she's blind. So I think this is something that we should challenge ourselves when we plan a role-playing scenario or something like that, or write a LARP. So work with the people you have, and you know, don't try to second guess, but discuss.
Yes. Comment. Yes. Okay. Yes, I didn't see that.
Yeah, we well, with many things in real life, disability is not very black and white. In reality, it is very subtle for a lot of disabilities. And when you're playing a character of any kind that has qualities you don't have, usually it's easier to go for things that for yourself might be difficult, because when it comes to especially neurodivergency, it's their qualities that are part of every human. It's just in different proportions. And when it comes to any sort of more physical disability, it is also very similar, because we all have the same bodies, but different things have happened to those bodies. So our reactions to things happening to us can still be very similar, which is why we can empathize with people being in a form of pain or being in a type of situation we haven't been in. So going through it with that, and like if you're adding in a disability or anything, we don't need to go into the deep end about something, even though that's something that we tend to notice more as a society, because then we're kind of holding up the idea that we're kind of gatekeeping what it is to be disabled or what it is to be neurodivergent, when those things are things that the person themselves identifies with most of the time.
Thank you. And another comment?
I think it's quite tempting to start thinking about disabilities and neurodivergence from the difficulties we face. And I think that's a problematic view on it. And I think we should create games where we can be ourselves. Like, you know, in an RPG or LARP or anything, I could be neurodiverse as I am. but let's make it a superpower. Let's have the good stuff there. I have the struggles and the difficulties in my life every day. I want to play the good aspects of it. And I know it's tempting idea to make characters for others to feel the disability of somebody else's, but you would have to really make research on how it affects your life and how it feels and how what you can and cannot do. And I'm a bit scared it could result to this kind of social disability suffering porn view. So whenever we play or make characters for let you feel of something, let's be very careful with that. These are real lives, and we are bloody superheroes every day. Let's play that too.
Thank you. Yeah. Before the comment on the back row, I'll just mention that I'm developing a game at the moment, and I've been thinking exactly from that point of view that if a world has magic and your legs don't work that you could walk, then you would develop magic to carry you in the air, for example. So this could be a way that it happens in the fantastic world. Or then I've been in the game trying to think that okay, this character is deaf, but they've been using their eyesight then to survive the world. So of course they get bonuses to their eyesight and perception in other things. So that the game would emphasize things that people have been focusing in their lives because of what they have been living with, similar to what you said. Go ahead.
Quick mention, when I mentioned about thinking about playing disabled characters, for example deaf characters, I tried to make my study on it by reading, for example, web comics made by deaf people and so on. And those have been really eye-opening, since they usually tell about the normal life and many of the funny things that happen to deaf people. For example, deaf people were being really, really good at spotting twitches when play poker, and other kinds of stuff, bot troubles, and also some funny scenarios that happen to deaf, at least these deaf comic artists.
Mm-hmm. Then in the back row.
Stand up so you can see me. I guess, well, after this comment, this might sound a bit off, because now I'm going back into the sort of suffering side, but we've been talking about character creation and creating a character that is already disabled. But I think it's also good to maybe to think about before your game starts, is it possible for the character to become disabled during the game? Obviously, if we're playing in sort of pre-modern worlds and we're going for a more realistic kind of simulationist style, there would be a lot of disabled people, because medicine was not what it was, so more people would get disabled during their lifetimes. And in some game systems, this is a possibility, like in Rolemaster, for example. You can lose various limbs very easily. So I think that's also something to think about. Of course, that often then goes to kind of dealing with the aftermath of that in that society. And of course, in games like D&D, there's no problem, because you have healing magic that can do everything. But I think this is something for everyone to maybe think about.
Thank you. Good point. Well, unfortunately, that was our 45 minutes. We can take a short comments from our panelists and then wrap it up. Go ahead if you have some thoughts from the discussion. Okay, Madlena can start.
Well, I'm also comment that this panel went really, really fast, and I would have had much more to say, but I'm happy to hear. I was happy to hear comments from the audience, and there was so many good ideas. Thanks.
Yes, I would also thank you for the audience for the excellent question, and it really feels like I really want to do a continue up for this, especially like if we get like a Another group of panelists, especially like, I would really like to make this kind of panel again with also some other panelists who are in the spectrum, just to kind of make the point that even though we are on the spectrum, we are still individuals in our ways, how autism affects our lives and how we perceive the world. Because what I'm telling you is just how my experience and views on it. I'm not representing the whole spectrum here.
Yeah, and also I want to thank the audience for the comments, because as Visa said, as was mentioned in the audience comments, we each experience living in our own way, in our bodies, and this regardless of any existing diagnosis or disability, or so I think what I would like people to remember and think about when going out and making games is that all people are individuals with their full lives and not just one trait that defines everything.
Thank you. And I am extremely happy. I thank you, the audience. When I proposed this topic to the program planners, I had no idea that it would be of so much interest. So applause for everyone. Thank you. Okay, I guess Ropecon will organize this again then. Continue to talk. Thank you. Bye.